you think you're anxious. But what if what you really are is wired? Wired for survival, wired for shutdown, wired for fear. And that wiring, it's not actually you, it's trauma. Let's breathe it out. Now, I want you to stay with me as I say that, because I know that that can be extremely triggering. There is nothing worse than having panic or anxiety or big feelings, and somebody says, take a breath, calm down. Or as my youngest son used to say to me, calm your tits. Nothing will trigger you faster. And so I want us to stay through this. When I was going through my head injury, about 7.5 years ago, I used to have severe panic attacks all of a sudden in the morning, and I had no idea why they were happening. I would have them when I was going to stop by my work, even when I was on leave. And so these pieces would come up and I wouldn't understand what was going on. And people would say, oh, you just need to breathe through them. But there's a lot more to it. So I just want us to stick with me as we go through this as a person who's gone through this herself and has used all of these techniques to be able to not only overcome, but to take her power back, to take control of my life back. And I want to be able to share them with you. So let's start off with the first part of this, which is that trauma isn't actually just a memory, but it's a frequency. And so if you think about that, our body is like a storage locker, and it's a storage locker of pain, not only physical pain, but mental pain and emotional pain, which is where psychosomatics comes in, or neuropsychoimmunology. That's really what we're talking about, is how the pain, the emotional and mental pain that we have, and how it affects the cells of our body, as well as the wiring system of the mind. And so we want to kind of take a look at this. So when we go, okay, trauma isn't just in our mind itself, but it actually buries itself in our cells. And that's why we can do things like tapping, body code or emotion code. We can do, there's so many of them out there now, that different ways that people have found to move this stuff through our bodies. It's one of the reasons why people do breathwork, why they do yoga, meditation. And there's a reason why we can use these non-physical ways to help heal the physical body. And we can get really stuck in matter to treat matter. So if I've got a physical problem, then I need something to physically touch me, or I need medication, or I need something really physical to happen. We don't think about the energetics of it. But the thing is memory is all not just mental, but it's in our tissues. It's a frequency. And so when we think of it from that point of view, think also like 5G. So for my friends that have a really hard time with, energy and vibes and frequency, if we can think of it as 5G, everybody knows that those new boxes that go on people's homes, hydro lines, all those things have a serious impact on the cells of our body. Our bodies aren't designed for it. And so a state of being at ease, or a body being in a state of peace, of calm, versus being at a state of dis-ease or stress, chronic stress, or out of balance. And frequency can affect us. And the same goes for our emotions, and the same goes for our thoughts. And so when we think about this, then we can understand that it not only buries itself in our tissues, it also buries itself in our gut. It can bury itself in our breath. And so there's parts of our body that can really help us understand what's happening when we're feeling pain, what's happening when we're having issues, and what it is that the body and the breath and the mind are trying to tell us, so that we can change the experience. We can get present with ourselves. And so this is what Dr. Bessel is talking about. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk is what his name is, and he did the book Body Keeps the Score. And so this is what he's talking about in this book. So even when the mind says I'm fine, the body might be stuck in a war. It might be stuck in a war that has been going on for a really long time. And so it feels normal. And so the mind's like, oh yeah, I'm fine because this is my normal. But it doesn't mean this is my healthy. And that's really important. And so often when we ignore something for a long time, the body will give us alerts or warning signals. And so if we're feeling things like anxiety, even when we're in calm situations, if we're feeling we need to numb out or cope, TV, video games, that sort of thing, when pressure hits of any format, when we know what we should do, but we just can't seem to do it. And so there's like, it might seem like we sabotage ourselves or we can't pull it together. And then, you know what? It also can be when we get really tired of things that we've tried. You know, I have a lot of people that will come and see me and they've done counseling and they're like, I'm just sick of talk therapy. I need something else. I don't want to talk about my story anymore. And so it may be that the talking of it is not actually moving it because we've just identified with it. And so these are things that can be warning signs to us that we're holding trauma in our bodies, in our cells. And so if our body is still bracing for the past, then our future doesn't really stand a chance. And it's not our fault, but it's our responsibility now to change that. I think that's really important to understand because a lot of the times we want to judge ourselves as not being good or, you know, how come I haven't fixed this already? And it's like, well, we didn't know better. So yes, that has been a past experience. And up until now, that's the way that it's handled things. But once we start becoming aware of our bodies, we can start having different conversations with them. And so I think of things like, and the way I like to explain it is anxiety and panic, fear, anger, big emotions like that are like little warning signs. And I think of them as like, like lights, like emergency lights. You know, you're in a factory or something and they have like the big orange lights. You see them in the movies, big orange lights on a wall. And, you know, there you need to get out of the building, you need to evacuate and the lights flashing, woo, woo. And I think of an emotion exactly like that. Emotions are just letting us know what's going on at a different level because the energy is becoming less subtle. We're getting denser. And so I might not be aware of the thoughts that I'm thinking that are on repeat. I might not be aware of my subconscious mind, that programming that's been running underneath the surface without my awareness for a long time. But an emotion is something I feel physically in my body. So I'm going to get that experience and I might even still not pay attention to it. And so my breath will start to change. And so my body will go through a whole series of behaviors. I might start becoming anxious. Hey, you're out of alignment. You're making decisions that are going to have a consequence. It could be that, and then if I ignore my anxiety, it could end up changing into panic. Or I could start having cramping in my stomach or heart palpitations. And so I'll start having more and more physical symptoms to let me know that something's wrong. And that something that's wrong might be something that is just in this moment, or it could be something that is a repeat, a trauma that is being bumped and is trying to come to the surface. And so rather than us trying to correct the outer environment to change it, then we want to instead go inward and go, okay, well, how can I move this energy, this trauma through my body in a different way? And so if you think of it as like training, if you want to get stronger, you start off with, you know, whatever your baseline weight is. Say you're going to curl 5-pound weights, and you start by curling 5-pound weights, and then you go up to 8s and 10s and 12s and 15s and 20s and so on until you are as strong as you desire yourself to be. And the same thing happens within our bodies. So we need to train our body that we're present and how to behave in a different way. What's interesting is since I started working with my panic, which was panic attacks were the one thing I didn't want to work with. I was happy to work with all my other emotions, but panic was one that really scared me. And so my doctor used to have me lie in bed in the morning when I would wake up with them. And she'd say, don't get out of bed until it passes. And so what I want you to do is paint a picture of that emotion that you're experiencing. I want to know, like, what is its texture? What is its temperature? Where does it come from? Does it move from left to right, up, down? Is it sinuous? Is it staticky, prickly? Is it smooth? What is this emotion? What does it feel like in your body? Where do you feel it in your body? How long does it last for? And what does it change into when it passes? And so every single morning I would wake up and I would do this. And when I first started, the emotion of panic would last 15, sometimes 20 minutes. What was interesting is within a week of doing this every single day, we were down, and we were down to like 5 minutes. And after probably about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it would like come and then it would just go. And at first the emotion it would change into, I wouldn't even be able to explain it. I'd be like, I just feel like nothing. Like it just feels like neutral. And that was just my homeostasis. I'm still feeling emotion. There's always some sort of emotion going on. It's just normal to us. And so it was a fascinating experience to go through. And then the next place that we played within it was breathing into it. So as I started with my doctor going through this and my experiences of pain, I started doing training in meditation. And it was mostly so that I would get the buy-in. So I did my training in the science of mindful awareness out of the mindfulness organization in Washington, D.C. And I did my training specifically to help me buy in to meditation, to help me with pain and help my brain recover. And when I started getting into meditation and doing my training in it, we did this breath meditation one day, and my teacher had me breathing into the pain in my body. So find a location, one place where you feel pain in your body. You can always move after. And then just start breathing and sending your breath into that place like you're massaging the pain from the inside. And as I was doing this 30-minute meditation, all of a sudden I was able to get all of my neck, which I had whiplash, my neck and my shoulders to start to soften so I could deal. And it was at least something that I could handle again. And so I started to control and use breathwork as a way to control pain as opposed to taking pain medication. And this is what really got me into all the work I do now. Because once I was like, well, wait a minute. If I can change my experience of pain with my breath, what else am I capable of? And most of the time, there's just so much distractions and stuff going on in our world that it's hard to get quiet, to go inside and find out what's happening. But our breath often is the thing that can tell us when we're unsure of other things. So I know that if I check in with my breath and I'm breathing with what we call our tertiary breathing muscles, our neck and shoulders, I'm breathing up, then I know I'm in a stress response. Now, it's not always bad. Maybe the stress response is because I just finished running 8K. Then yeah, I'm probably going to be breathing up. I want to drop it down still, but my body's saying, hey, I'm trying to recover. It isn't a stress response. It's just not a bad stress response. And then if I'm breathing into my secondary breathing muscles, my rib cage, then I might be in kind of a neutral. I'm still not in my prime health of my breath. And each time, if I can start dropping my breath deeper and deeper down into my navel, and get my belly to breathe and use my diaphragm, then I can support the movement of stress, of toxins out of my body. And so if we think of breath work as a way, the body's language for freedom. So we can use the breath to support the body in releasing the traumas from it. And even when I'm doing body code work with people, this is what I've learned to use now. So I used to do it the traditional way, which Dr. Bradley Nelson talks about in his book, The Body Code, and use magnets to release an emotion. And then I changed it and I started to use breath to change the emotions. And so the reason why is for myself, after doing shamanic training and quantum holistic coaching, I realized that the breath was really the link that was important for people to take responsibility and have an active participation in their own healing journey, as opposed to just me doing something for them. And so I realized that as I helped people breathe into the space where it was being held in the body and make the choice to release it as I was using the magnets and I usually use my hands, but using magnetic energy to move the emotions or the traumas, the dramas out of the body, people were having better and better responses, and they were lasting and going deeper. So they were getting the ripple effect of it for a longer period of time. It was my experience as a practitioner. And so how it all works. So if we think of this, so breath equals nervous system rewiring. So we're going to that would be the kind of the basic way to look at this. And so the breath talks directly to our nervous system. And we know this on a physiological plane, I guess, or thought process. So if you can't fake safety, but you can create it. You can create safety in the body, and it starts with the breath. And when I say we know this, because the vagus nerves run from our brainstem, and then they run down and they go through the diaphragm at the throat, the glottis, the breathing diaphragm. They go down through, and they are vagabonds, and we have a left and a right, and they go to all of the different organs in our body. Both of them move through the breathing diaphragm, that beautiful big balloon that is at the bottom of our lungs above our stomach. And then they go through there and then all the way down to the third diaphragm of the body, the pelvic floor. And so when we're using our primary breathing muscle of our abdomen, and especially if we soften our throat, our glottis, then we're actually massaging those vagus nerves. And we call it creating vagal tone. That is not the same as the tone of a muscle. It is the body's ability to flip systems. So to go from the doing system of the sympathetic, the part that's also considered fight and flight, but it's also the doing system. We want to be alert and active while we're driving. We want to be able to be, able to make a shift and a pivot in the last moment. There's nothing wrong with being in our sympathetic nervous system, but we want to be able to flip over to our parasympathetic nervous system, which would be our rest and reset, as well as digestion system. And we should be moving through these two systems about every 90 minutes to 2 hours. They're like a wave. And so about every 90 minutes to 2 hours, we should be shifting back and forth. Do, be, all day long. And so we should be able to flip. But what happens for most of us in chronic stress is we just get caught in doing and we don't get to the being. And that's why we have problems with digestion. And the other thing that runs through the breathing diaphragm is not only is the aorta, so for blood flow into the body, but is also the esophagus. And so when we belly breathe, we're actually massaging the esophagus to support digestion of our food. And so there's a lot happening within the breath. And so the breath can directly create an experience of safety within our body by changing it. So by dropping the breath lower into the body, evening and smoothing the breath out, lengthening the inhale and the exhale, noticing the pause at the top and the pause at the bottom, we can start changing the experience. And so often for myself, because I had a severe stress response of driving after car accidents, I started to use water breathing while I was driving. And a water breath just means same. So it's like you would drink water all day long. Coffee breathing would be, you see this in yoga or in certain types of breath work. I'm blanking on the guy's name right now, but where you're actually slower on your inhale and faster on your exhale. So it's almost like you could create a hyperventilation, but you're actually jacking the blood up into the limbs and legs, preparing for flight. And so it's great for like doing exercise. They'll use it. You'll see bodybuilders doing it before they are about to lift a big heavy weight because they're moving all the blood into their limbs. They're using their breath to change their nervous system. And so we can do it in the opposite way to also calm our nervous system. And so that's why people will flippantly say, take a breath. And that means shit. If taking a breath is you going and going up, and you're just kind of getting into the upper lungs. If we want to calm the system, we got to drop it down into the belly, down to the pelvic floor. And sometimes that can be hard to feel, especially if we've had any sort of sexual trauma or any sort of trauma, even with a small t, which would mean like trauma around our sexuality, our sensuality, around our creativity. We hold a lot of that in our hips. In safety and survival is our genitals and our reproductive organs. So those two places together kind of sandwich the pelvic floor. And so sometimes it can be easier to feel that perineum, that bottom pelvic floor, easier to feel that more towards the anus or towards the genitals. And so we want to be able to drop that down. So if we can soften the anus, then we can breathe to the belly, because those two diaphragms are connected by two muscles that run on the inside of our spine, and they move in tandem. And so they're going to move to expand together and then retract together. And so to get a deeper breath into the belly, we want to be able to soften the pelvic floor. If we're having a hard time as well, another place that can be difficult for people to drop the breath is if the throat feels exposed. So if you think like you're wide open, it makes us feel like we're very exposed to the world. So sometimes dropping our chin towards not our chest, but towards our throat. So we kind of lengthen, like we're trying to make multiple chins, lengthen the back of our neck, lift the back of our skull, and then soften our anus. That can also help be able to breathe deeper into the belly. So just some little tips as we're kind of going through this of ways that we can shift the physical body to help support the deepening of the breath so that we can adjust the experience that we're having within our body. So this is important because words don't heal what breath can move. And this is how I wrote that down. So trauma lives below language. So what happens for a lot of us is we're sitting here saying affirmations or, intentions, I want abundance, or I am abundant. And we're setting these intentions. But if we have trauma inside of our body that maybe abundance isn't safe to have, and maybe it's not safe because we grew up in an environment where people, say, you're a capitalist if you're abundant. And so you feel attacked. Well, if you feel attacked for having abundance and yet you want to be abundant, we have a dichotomy happening within our body. And so we want to be able to release the trauma and they can just be traumas with small t's. Not every trauma is a big T trauma. And so, but the body's still keeping the score. The body's still holding the memory. And those memories are creating belief systems on our subconscious. And they create the programs that are running. And so our subconscious beliefs create the programming. Programming creates our thoughts. Our thoughts are what create our words. And so if we're trying to just say words from a conscious thing, but we're not changing the subconscious, the breath is something that can help us move those old traumas out of ourselves to support us in a physical way. So the breath is a portion that links the physical body with the subtle body, mental and emotional. And so it gets to move between those two, linking it as well as linking us with the world all around us. And so it's important to understand that we don't need to explain our pain to release it. For some people, it helps. They're verbal processors. I'm a verbal processor. So it does help me to have somebody to talk things through with. It doesn't necessarily mean I need to go to talk therapy, but there's times where having somebody, a therapist to talk things out with is really beneficial when the intention is to move past it. And so this is where that can really help. For some people, we just need to be able to feel like we're even being heard. And we got to go through the processes and love on ourselves wherever we're at. So just know that there's a lot of pieces here that we can do for ourselves that they don't actually require other people. It's just that we don't know the skills of how to reconnect with our bodies and become intimate with ourselves again. Into me see. That's what intimacy means. Into me see. When we're creating intimacy with another person. Into me see. I'm opening myself up. I want you to see me and I want to see you. Well, the same thing happens with intimacy within ourselves. And so we're trying to create this intimacy within ourselves so that we can understand that there's something there. And then we can use the breath as an opportunity to move it. And we can do that with intention. So we don't need to explain our pain to release it. So for those of you that don't want to talk about it, you don't want to share it, you don't want to live there, whatever it is, you don't have to. You can use the breath and you can use different tools to shift and move that trauma through your body. And the breath also bypasses our thinking brain and goes straight to the stuckness. And so this is the same for journaling, just so you know. So a lot of the times there's a bunch of neuroscience on journaling. And when we journal something and we start free writing, we bypass the thinking mind. And so we start moving energy and it'll change our breath. And so there's different tricks that we can use to help us get where it is that we desire to go. And then the releasing, we can shake, cry, breathe, and reset. So if you think of it as, emotional energy just doesn't go away, it transforms. And so that's why the breath can do such a wonderful job. So tingling, shaking, we can actively shake. So shaking the body out, you get like those things, you're like, oh, I just want to shake it out. There's a reason why we have these natural reactions, the sighing breath. These are natural things that we do to release. So we can take that more and amp it up to release it either more efficiently or feel a more visceral feeling of what we're letting go. And so take tingling, shaking, and crying as well. And so a lot of people don't like to cry when I'm using body code and moving through trapped emotions in the body. But often we'll have the trapped emotion of crying where we suppress our tears and we don't allow ourselves to cry. And that can be because of society, when growing up, boys don't cry, that sort of thing, or being teased for crying, or your tears being used against you if you've grown up or been around, narcissists or sociopaths. So there's reasons why we don't feel safe to cry, but crying is another thing that can help our system release what has never been allowed to move. So these are all things that we can use to help us move energy through our body. So you don't need to fix yourself. What you need to do is feel what's trapped so that you can come back to yourself. And when I say feel, I don't mean the whole story. We just need to be able to be present with ourselves and feel what's there so that it can finally rise up and release. So I want us to try this. So it's a nervous system reset. It's a breath that I use all the time. And we call it either a relaxation breath. It's also considered a cortisol detox breath. And so it's a 4-2-8 breath. And so we inhale through our nose for about 4 seconds or 4 heartbeats, and we breathe deep down into the belly. We pause, we hold it for about 2 seconds, 2 heartbeats, feeling it expand in our body. And then we exhale slow and soft, preferably through the mouth. You can do it through your nose, preferably through your mouth, though, with a gentle sigh. There's a reason for it. So think sound therapy. So we're getting the vibrational frequency of sound and the resonance moving through to reverberate and allow and support the releasing of these energies out of our body. So we inhale for 4 through the nose, we hold for 2, feeling it expand. We exhale for 8, allowing us to get soft as we go slow and we let go. And we can do this simply as we feel an emotion come up for about 3 times. So I always feel a little bit of anxiety, could also be termed excitement, but I have my own traumas around being visible, being out in the world. And so within those, it's often a thing that I struggle with. So I feel a level of anxiousness every time when I'm doing, excuse me, anytime I'm doing, a podcast or a video, when I'm talking to people, doing a Facebook Live, it's a little nerve-wracking. So we'll do it together here. So let's do it for 3 of them, and I'll count them through for us. So we're going to inhale through the nose. So actually take a moment, settle into your body, feel it, feel your seat, feel your buttocks connecting to the earth. If you're sitting down, the back of your thighs. Even if you're driving, you can still do this breath, just don't close your eyes. Feel the soles of your feet. If you're standing, if you're walking, just feel your feet. Notice what's happening there. Coming into the body, I want you to soften the pelvic floor. Soften your buttocks. Soften your whole pelvis. Soften your navel, let your belly expand. And maybe even soften your lips. Turning the corner up and just a hint of a smile. I'll start to soften all the little muscles in your face. And if we're feeling really anxious and that's not possible, that's okay. I just want you to come into your body for a moment. Notice where you feel the anxiety, the anxiousness in your body. Is it in your abdomen? Is it in your chest? What do you feel in your shoulders and your neck? Just notice it's not good or bad. It's just an experience. You, consciousness, aware of your body and the experience of it. Now empty your body of breath. Come to the bottom of it. And inhale through your nose for 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause. Exhale, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'll do it with you. Inhale for 4. Pause. Sigh out for 8. Inhale for 4. Pause. Exhale for 8. and just stop. Just notice your body. Has it shifted? Has it adjusted? And you can keep going with this. Often we'll do this breath for about 10 counts. A beautiful breath before bed. Excuse me, it's considered a cortisol detox breath. Is sighing the breath out allows us to release the excess cortisol out of our body. We actually release more toxins through our exhale than we do any other avenue of our body if we're breathing in a healthy pattern. More than feces, more than urine, more than sweat. And so that's why when people start doing breath work, a lot of people will actually notice that they'll lose weight because they're shedding excess toxins. The belly breathing supports as we breathe into the belly. 70% of our lymph system is in our small intestine. We're massaging into it, pushing and massaging the lymph system of the body so that we can start exhaling and releasing the excess toxins, which is why deep breathing also supports our immune system. So there's a lot of things happening within our breath as we're doing that. So I just want you to notice what shifts. Notice not just your breath, but in your whole field. And so as you practice these breaths, just notice what's there. We've got a full VIP day coming up on, I think it's the 12th, it's Saturday, and it is going to be a full day, it's 4 hours, and we're going to be working from 9 until 1 o'clock, and we're going to be really taking a look at breath work, how we can support ourselves, support our releasing, how we can use our own experiences, physical, mental, and emotional, to support our own healing journey. So we'll be doing some somatic rituals to reset our wiring and clear conditioning. We'll be doing some guided breath work to move a lot of things that maybe our therapies haven't touched, and coaching, where we're not going to be sugarcoating it, but we're going to be hitting some stuff straight on so that we can have some clear awareness as to what's really going on in our lives, patterns that haven't been serving us, and moving into a place that will. And I hope to see you there. There's going to be some limited spots for this, so if you're interested in it, you can just message me. I'm in. You can go to our website, practicalspiritualismco.com. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, or you can join our Facebook group, which is private, just for keeping some feeling of safety and security within the community, which is called the Awakening Circle. And so you're welcome to go on there as well. So I want you to remember, 1, you are never broken. You do not need to be fixed. We are just buried. It's like clouds on a cloudy day. The sun's still shining. We just need to clear this stuff away, all this smog, all this debris, all these illusions that these beliefs cause us, so that we can see ourselves again. And the breath is a bridge. It's a bridge back to your freedom. And please like, comment, and share if this woke something up in you, if it resonated, or you know somebody that you think it might help. And subscribe for more truth bombs and healing. Until next time, brightest of blessings.